Here is an article in The Intercept that I think summed up a lot of what's been going on, as cancel culture has not only hit academia, but the private sector as well. This article writes here, the Senate condemns student groups as backlash to pro-Palestinian speech grows. So this is an article here by Murtaza Hussain. We're going to read pieces from this. This was long, so this jumps around in it a little bit, just full disclosure. On Friday, the U.S. Senate passed a unanimous resolution condemning what it called anti-Israel, pro-Hamas student groups across the country following a day of walkouts. Hundreds of students, led by Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace, walked out of classes at Columbia University, Princeton University, New York University, and dozens of other colleges in what they described as a demand for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to U.S. military support to Israel. The Senate resolution condemns student groups for ostensibly supporting Hamas as part of a broader government and corporate pushback on protests over the war. Notice nowhere in his description is there any support for Hamas. It is criticism of the Israeli response, which now has killed over 8,000 people, including 3,100 children. 3,100 children in 3 weeks.
Yep.
That's 1,000 children a week. 1,000 children a week. We are seeing people fired from their jobs, being investigated by HR over their social media posts or conversations with colleagues, having job offers rescinded. There is a clear trend that people's jobs are being targeted right now, said Dima Khalidi, the founder and director of Palestine Legal, an advocacy organization that seeks to preserve the civil rights of supporters of Palestinian rights in the United States. In recent weeks, the editor-in-chief of the nonprofit scientific journal eLife, Michael Eisen, was forced to resign after sharing an article from The Onion satirizing public indifference to Palestinian civilian deaths. A top Hollywood talent agent, Maha Dakil, sorry if I butchered that name, was removed from the board of her company for suggesting on Instagram that a genocide was taking place in Gaza. Could you believe that? For suggesting a genocide was taking place in Gaza, they fired her? That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Not fired her, but removed her from the board. Sorry, I apologize.
She's not fired. She still has Anne Hathaway as a client of hers, actually.
Right. Okay.
Aaron Sorkin left the agency because of this.
Wow. See, liberal Aaron Sorkin, West Wing Aaron Sorkin,
Yep.
right?
That does not surprise me.
No, this shows you who these people really are. And numerous journalists engage in non-political coverage, as well as ordinary corporate employees, both in the United States and beyond, have faced reprimands and dismissals over their statements on the war. In one of the most high-profile and egregious instances of retaliation, the head of the major global technology conference Web Summit was forced to apologize and resign after posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, that war crimes are war crimes even when committed by allies and should be called out for what they are. Wow. Was forced to apologize and resign. Not apologize or resign. Apologize and resign after making a statement as obviously and objectively true as war crimes are war crimes even when committed by allies. There have been a few cases of genuine prejudice and hate speech underlying these incidents, but the vast majority of recent retaliation appears to be based on what is considered protected speech and advocacy in normal circumstances. These attacks have extended from corporate America deep into the cultural world as well. Numerous writers have had their events canceled or been forced to shift venues based on past or present statements they have made deemed to be supportive of Palestinians or critical of Israel, including, and we almost did this as a standalone segment, the political analyst and author Nathan Thrall and the novelist Viet Thanh Nguyen, is that how you say it? I never knew how to say that name. It's a common last name.
I say it the way I read it, Nguyen.
I don't think that's it.
I don't even pronounce things that are a lot easier than that properly, so don't go by me.
All right. Who is scheduled to speak at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. The climate of fear in the art world has led many to wonder how to balance the pressure to take a public stand with the fear that retaliation over politics may end their careers early. Yep. This is my favorite part of this. Many filmmakers have reported feeling pressured to delete social media posts and Instagram accounts out of fear of surveillance from peers in their industry. On Thursday, the editor of the journal Art Forum was fired after pressure over a public letter published in support of Palestinian rights. There is a long game that many of us minority filmmakers with a conscience are playing, said one Hollywood filmmaker who asked for anonymity to discuss the issue out of fear of retaliation. Do we stay patient and put our resistance and outrage into the films which will outlast us, or do we risk losing our careers over an ephemeral social post that doesn't save a single life in Palestine? Well, the answer is obviously you risk losing your career in order to speak out against this once-in-a-lifetime atrocity, this world historic atrocity that's taking place. Because the issue, well, I'm not going to save a single life in Palestine. I'm sorry, that is a cop-out. That's a cop-out. Obviously, we hope...
It's a rationalization.
It's a rationalization, exactly. And we obviously hope that the mass actions and the mass protests, one of which we're going to be covering later on in the evening, we obviously hope they have an impact and hope we can pressure the government, our government, into ordering a ceasefire, which they could do and stop this violence right now if they wanted to. But even if we fail at that... there is tremendous value in speaking out and letting our fellow Muslim citizens and our fellow Palestinian American citizens know that they are not alone in their suffering and that they are not alone in their grief. We had a Palestinian caller who, is a monthly member, and they called us and they thanked us for our coverage. That means something. I'm not just saying this to toot our own horn. I'm just saying that when you speak out and you let people know that they are not alone, there's tremendous value in that, because that builds solidarity. And through solidarity, you build movements that can change things for the better. So no, there's no excuse, no matter where you are, to keep your mouth shut right now. I don't think. I don't buy that.
I had someone actually ask me after seeing the Maddow thing that we did with Jose, what's the point of doing that? Do you think you're changing anything? And my answer was, as much of a disappointment as Bernie Sanders turned out to be, one thing I will credit him for in my own life is getting across to me the idea that you don't have to be everything, but you have to be part of something to change anything. You don't have to be the leader. You don't have to put that on yourself that, well, but what can I do? I'm one person. He definitely got across to me it's not about that. If everyone says that, no one will do anything, right? You have to do what you can do. What you can do, you do. And exactly as you're saying, it's telling other people you're not alone so that you can come together and unite as a unit. And especially if you have a platform like this, it's doubly important to tell people they're not alone, right? That there are people out here who think like you, a lot of them. You're not by yourself. And that is a lot of the point. So what? You're going to make a movie about this after these people have all been wiped out?
Right.
We're going to wait. It takes a long time to make a movie.
Right.
So what? First of all, you have to wait until the political pressure is off. Well, you know what? If the political pressure is off, it's probably going to be because these people have been wiped out already, so it doesn't make a difference what you say or do. This is the moment where it makes a difference. And if you look at how this is playing out, it's very much like the Vietnam War, where you have this younger generation that is truly seeing the face of its leadership, including the Democratic Party. That was what led to that riotous convention in Chicago in 1968, Johnson escalating the war. They saw that the Democrats were not the good guys, that the Democrats were part of the same military-industrial complex. That's kind of replaying itself here. And just like back then, what did they do? J. Edgar Hoover sent out the FBI to infiltrate their organizations. The establishment is bringing the hammer down because now these kids are actually taking a stand they care about. They didn't care about who's allowed in a swim meet. They didn't give a shit about that.
Right.
This now you're fucking with the whole edifice that their money, their power, their geopolitical games. You're fucking with their whole world. And now they're finding out what the establishment that up to this point they've been very, in my opinion, they've been very cozy with. That's what I'm talking about when I say woke. You're not really challenging power, even as you're talking about challenging systemic oppression. You're really not. You're just channeling your energy in the directions that they want you to go in because it is no actual threat to power. That's what I'm talking about when I say woke. And now, hey, God bless them, man. A lot of them are actually seem to mean well. Even if they were misguided, you can't blame people for being misguided, especially if they're young people.
Right. A lot of these people are 19, 20 years old.
Right. You can't blame them for that. Hey, these people are a lot older. They're a lot wiser. They have control over all the means of communication. They have control over academia. I don't blame these kids for that. And I'm very impressed with the ones who, now that we're facing a real situation, are risking their whole futures to stand up and speak up. And as we've said many times since this started, it's redeeming a lot of what we've criticized to see so many of them actually mean it when they're confronted with something real.
Yeah, and look, the other point of this is if everybody speaks up and speaks out, as Dave Chappelle reportedly told his audience when some of them gave him pushback over his comments on this matter, they can't cancel all of us, right? I mean, if enough people speak out where this becomes the norm, then they become the odd one out for having this ridiculous, absurd position that Israel can do no wrong, because that is what they're saying. There is not a reasonable other side to this argument, right? They straw man our side of the argument, right, by saying we don't care about
Hamas.
dead Israelis, or we support the Hamas action, which, you know, we've said obviously on this show. We'll say it again for any censors that may be watching. All violence is tragic. All war is obscene. We celebrate the deaths of no one, obviously. But that's what they try to put on us because they have nothing else, because they're the ones defending a world historic atrocity as it is unfolding in real time. And as Russell just said, a lot of kids at these schools are figuring out what it really means to be woke, if that helps people in the audience, right? What it really means to be woke is to piss these people off and not care, right? Yes. Because you know what has happened is a lot of this social justice energy has been corralled by the very people who are now trying to stomp it out when it actually means something, at the moment when it actually means something. And I just want to finish reading from this piece here because it ends: despite the growing climate of repression, legal advocates committed to defending free speech on the issue say that they will continue to promote the Palestinian perspective on the conflict with renewed urgency given current events in Gaza. There are many people speaking out and refusing to be intimidated by this McCarthyist-style purge, said Khalidi of Palestine Legal. It's really important for people to think beyond the immediate moment and tap into our moral compass here, because we are witnessing immense war crimes, and if we don't stand up and speak out about them, then we are also complicit. Yes, absolutely. How difficult is that to understand? Oh, should I wait and sit tight so I can make my immortal film that's going to outlive me? No, your film doesn't mean anything. That's going to
be too late. The film you make in 10 years about the film you make in 1965 about Japanese internment camps is not helping any of the people in the Japanese internment camps.
Please clap.